I found this article, or I was suggested this article about this Uvalde, Texas shooter's mom being confronted by one of the victims' families, and it was filmed by a Spanish network, so I figured I could watch it and translate some of it to whoever is interested in knowing what they're saying. So let's watch it. This is my first time watching it as well.
Salvador Ramos, quien mató a... Hola, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo te va? Felicidad. En efecto, apareció la mamá del tirador de Uvalde, Salvador Ramos, quien mató a 19 niños y 2 maestras en la escuela primaria Rob. Este enfrentamiento fue de manera casual porque justamente acabado de terminar una reunión de los padres de las víctimas y ellos se encontraron con Adriana Martínez Reyes y ahí comenzó el enfrentamiamiento verbal. Hubo gritos, palabras fuertes, pero jamás evidentemente se tocaron. Quiero comentarte que los familiares de Emery Jo Garza le dijeron su molestia, su inconformidad. Ella no quería contestar, pero después respondió que no era culpable. Nosotros estábamos aquí de manera casual y fuimos testigos de primera mano y les tenemos estas imágenes en exclusiva. En plenas calles de Uvalde se enfrentaron verbalmente familiares de los niños víctimas del tiroteo con la mamá de Salvador Ramos, asesino de los 19 niños y 2 maestras de la escuela primaria Rob. Ante las acusaciones de los padres de que su hijo era un asesino, ella respondía que no, que seguramente no lo saben. Al mismo tiempo marcaba el 911 para pedir apoyo de la policía. En un ambiente tenso donde la mamá del tirador sollozaba, prefería no decir nada, aunque de repente llegaba a contestar. Tú eres la última persona en juzgarme, que Dios te perdone, respondía la mamá del tirador. Del otro lado, los papás de Emery Jo Garza estaban indignados.
La molestia es muy fuerte para ustedes como padres.
Sí.
Por el coraje, ¿creen que ella tiene responsable?
Sí, mucho. ¿Qué razones tenía para matar a 19 niños y 2 maestras? ¿Qué razones? No tenía ni una razón.
Ella dice que es inocente.
¿Inocente de qué? No es inocente, no es inocente. Ella lo crió así. Ella sabía cómo estaba, ella sabía las armas.
I'm going to pause it here. So far in the beginning, the news reporter said that there was a meeting, or that the family of the victims were meeting together. And it's a little unclear to me, but either they confronted the mom or they just happened to run into her. And they, as you can see, or as you saw, they started to tell her, like, this is basically her fault. She has some type of responsibility. And the reporter, that when he was following her and when she was on the phone, he said that she was calling 911, that the gunman's mom was calling 911 so that they could assist her and help her in this situation, because she felt like threatened by the parents. And so right here, what the news reporter said to this lady is, she's innocent, and she's saying, what? She's not innocent. She created her son. She raised her son this way. She made him this way because she wasn't parenting him. And well, that's not exactly what she said, but she said that she raised him to be this way, so it is her fault. And something else that's interesting in this part here,
no tenía ni una razón.
She's very angry and saying, what reasons? Razón means reason. What reasons did he have? And in case you don't know why she's saying that, I'm thinking they're confronting her in the way that they are here, because in the first interview that went public with his mom, she said, he had his reasons for doing what he did, and to please forgive him and not to judge him, and that she just wants to apologize and say that she's very sorry for all the innocent kids that died. And the news reporter asked her, well, what about the parents? And this is in the first interview, not this interview, right? And she said, well, I obviously asked them for forgiveness. Please don't judge my son. He had his reasons. And when they asked her, well, what were his reasons? She said, Spanish can be very confusing sometimes, so I had to listen to what her response was. She said, para que se acerquen a sus niños, which translates to get close to your kids, to so that you don't pay attention, so that they don't pay attention to bad things, and that very much confused me. But what she was saying is the reason, maybe that one of the reasons why he did it is so that parents can learn to get closer to their kids instead of their kids getting into bad things, which is really reflective to me. It reflects maybe about their relationship, because there's been a lot of news reports saying that she was a drug addict and she struggles with drugs, and the gunman's grandma was I guess preparing to kick her out, in the process of kicking out his mom, and her son went to go live with the grandparents. So I mean, it could be. And then there's another news report article that I read of the gunman's cousin, that I don't know if you guys know this, but her son was in that school, and that son was very close to the gunman. And a week prior to the mass shooting, the gunman was asking his cousin about details about school, like what time do they go to lunch, what do they, about their schedule basically. And so the cousin at the end of that article also said that the mom is, and I quote, a shitty parent, a shitty mom, a shitty daughter, that she's hardly been at the hospital, and that she doesn't go visit her mom. It's just it's not like she's staying on her by her side and catering to her mom. And I guess she was recently kicked out of the hospital, or banned from the hospital. So I will show you guys the interview and that piece of information. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go on this little rant, but I'm just saying that all of this situation kind of connects to that.
Ella dice que es inocente.
¿Inocente de qué? No es inocente, no es inocente.
She's saying innocent of what? I think the news reporter told her, she said that she's innocent. Let's listen to
Para
that.
19 niños y 2 maestras, ¿qué razones? No tenían ni una razón.
Ella dice que es inocente.
Okay, so the reporter said, she said, his mom, the gunman's mom, oh, well, she said she's innocent. And the lady said, innocent.
¿Inocente de qué? No es inocente, no es inocente. Ella lo crió así. Ella sabía cómo estaba, ella sabía las armas.
She knew that he was like that. She knew about the gun.
So, no es inocente.
En su camino a esconderse en algún lugar, insistimos por si nos quería decir algo.
What reason did he have?
You know the
What
mental...
reason?
Los gritos fueron aumentando de tono.
Why didn't you call the cops to begin with?
I didn't
Whenever
know.
you
No lo hice. Estoy cansada de que la gente venga por mí.
No, I didn't.
No es mi culpa.
No, I didn't.
I know my son was a coward. You don't think I don't know that? I know. You don't think I'm carrying all that with me? You don't think I don't know? I know. And I'm sorry.
No se dé la vuelta como una cobarde. Lo llevo conmigo. ¿No crees que no lo sé lo que pasó? Lo siento. Adriana estaba vencida de responder y se soltó a llorar. Finalmente llegó la policía y solo dijo esto en español.
Que Dios los bendiga.
La policía se la llevó en una de las unidades y despidió a los familiares de las víctimas. Adriana estaba vencida de responder y se soltó a llorar. Finalmente llegó la policía y solo dijo esto en español.
Que Dios los bendiga.
La policía se la llevó en una de las...
That's what she said. I think she's saying if God forgive them or something.
unidades y despidió a los familiares de las víctimas no acercarse más
Oh gosh, they're freaking to serve and protect sticker.
con ella. Bueno, finalmente conocimos a la mamá del tirador, Adriana Martínez Reyes. Evidentemente la molestia, la familia está inconsolable, los hijos han muerto y por supuesto están molestos. Lo que dicen los vecinos, incluso la policía, es que este incidente tan fuerte, tan doloroso, se podría volver a repetir porque los sentimientos de felicidad sin duda están a flor de piel aquí en Uvalde.
No, de verdad una situación horrible.
Vecinos, incluso la policía, es que este incidente tan fuerte, tan doloroso, se podría volver a repetir porque
She's saying that this incident could be bound to repeat itself.
los
The emotions are so
sentimientos de felicidad sin duda están a flor de piel aquí en Uvalde.
I'm not sure if I translated that last part correctly. If anybody's fluent in Spanish, could you explain that a little bit more? What he's saying, that it could be bound to happen again because emotions are so high. Did I hear that correctly?
De verdad una situación horrible. Gracias por mantenernos al tanto, Edgar.
Okay, guys, now I'm gonna show you her first interview.
No tengo palabras. No tengo palabras para decir, porque no sé lo que estaba pensando. Él tenía sus razones para hacer lo que hizo. Y por favor, no lo juzgan. Yo nomás quiero a los niños inocentes que se murieron. Perdóname.
¿Qué les dices a los familiares de ellos?
Perdona a mi hijo. Yo sé, él tenía sus razones.
¿Qué razones pudo haber tenido?
A que se acercaran más a sus niños, en vez de poner atención a las otras cosas malas. Yo no tengo palabras, no sé. Era bien calladito. Era bien callado, bien.
Something else that I thought was interesting is she called him era bien calladito, which in Spanish, when you add like ito to the end of a word, like that's being affectionate, and that's kind of saying like he was just a quiet little thing. And then she corrected herself and she said era muy callado, like instead of like, oh, he was just a quiet little thing, he was very quiet. I think she realized it's more appropriate to not portray him as this little quiet innocent thing. So that was just kind of something I caught on to, because I do know Spanish. So
He was himself. Él no le molestaba a nadie. Él no le hacía nada a nadie.
okay, now for the article. Alright, it says here, Salvador Ramos' cousin reveals he asked her third-grade son for details about Robb Elementary, including what time students were let out for lunch a week before massacre. He knew my baby went to school there. So that's the cousin, that's her son, and that's his grandmother that he shot in the face. Shelby Celeste is 28, said her cousin asked her young son about his school a week before his deadly rampage. At the time, I didn't think anything of it. They had a good relationship. They were second cousins, the mom told Daily Mail. So I'm going to skip that stuff because those are just like key bulletin points. So I'm just going to go down here. The cousin of Texas gunman Salvador Ramos has revealed the teenage killer had asked her young son for details about his elementary school just a week before the murderous mass shooting. Shelby Celeste Salazar said her son was a third-grade student at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, where her 18-year-old cousin opened fire Tuesday in a horrific shooting spree that killed 19 children and two teachers. Alright, so she said, days before the massacre, Ramos had spoken to her son about what time students were let out for lunch. At the time, I didn't think anything of it. They had a good relationship. They are second cousins, the mother of four said. Salazar and her children were living with Ramos and their grandmother, Cecilia Gonzalez, who was shot in the face by her grandson just before the massacre. She is the daughter of Ramos's mother's half-sister, so she lives with them. Her son would play with the gunman, and that's his cousin. They were very close. So this girl was also, very close, or at least living in a close proximity with this kid, with this guy. A week after this conversation with Salazar's son, Ramos would drive to the little boy's school armed with an AR-15 assault rifle and shoot up the building and kill 21 people. The third grader was in class when Ramos began his killing spree, but was fortunately unscathed by the mass shooting. Salazar said she has no idea if her cousin targeted her son or intentionally avoided going into his classroom. No one knows why he did what he did. That's the truth, she said. No one can say they knew what he was thinking or how he felt, or even why he felt he need to shoot our grandmother and all those innocent babies. Salazar said Ramos had been living with them after he was kicked out of his mom's house across town. Authorities revealed Ramos had shot and critically wounded his grandmother at her home before heading down to the school to continue his rampage. Can't say that word, sorry guys. Rampage? Gonzalez, 66, is currently... Hold on one second. Okay, it's rampage. Alright. Okay. Oh. Wrong article. Gonzalez, 66, is currently recovering in a hospital in San Antonio. Salazar said she is still struggling to wrap her head around her cousin's senseless act of violence and why he would target a school and even their own grandmother. I don't know why he would have targeted an elementary school. I mean, he didn't know how to drive, so I really do not know. I'm at a total loss for words, she said. And this is his family in Halloween 2021. That's his grandparents there. Let's see. So, again, she's related to the shooter through her mother, Natalie, and his mother, Adriana Reyes. That's the grandparents. He knew my baby went to school there. I can't grasp this. That's why I'm at a loss for words. I just saw the news with text messages and started freaking out. If he could do that to my grandma, I don't know how to feel about the school thing, knowing my baby went to school there. My son and him were so close. This is why I'm shocked. I thought nothing of it when they were talking about school and his grade and lunch. I mean, you just don't assume someone will do something like this, you know? Salazar said Ramos was a quiet teen, but had changed in the past couple of months after his mother threw him out of the house and called the police. Before he would joke and laugh, and then he was quiet. He didn't speak much, no more smiles, just silence. He became less and less of any communication with us. She said she never saw any guns around their grandmother's house where they lived. She said she last saw him on Friday evening and last spoke with him on Saturday. Salazar left Uvalde for the weekend to visit friends and was in San Antonio when Ramos shot up the elementary school. Police said he had bought 2 AR-15 assault rifles for his 18th birthday days before the shooting, bragged about them on social media, and suggested he would commit an atrocity before the deadly attack. Ramos reportedly had a strained relationship with his mother, Adriana Reyes, which she denies. In an interview with DailyMail.com on Wednesday, Reyes said she was surprised by her son's murderous acts, but admitted he was a loner who kept to himself and didn't have many friends. She shot down reports that she had a toxic relationship with him. She also did not address claims she was a drug addict who saw the boy ditch her and go live with his grandma. In an interview with CNN in Spanish on Friday, Reyes said of her son, I have no words to say. I don't know what he was thinking. He had his reasons for doing what he did, and please don't judge him, she continued. I only want the innocent children who died to forgive me. Forgive me, forgive my son. I know he had his reasons. When asked why he targeted the elementary school, she simply said it was to get closer to those children. See, that's why I translated that for you guys, because I don't think that's what she said. Spanish grammar can be very confusing. What she was saying was what I think she was saying is so that parents in general could learn from the experience and see what happens when you're not close to your kids can get involved into bad things, which I'm just translating here so you guys can understand that I think that's what she meant. So this is his mom, his grandmother, and his sister, Adriana Reyes's sister, which is the cousin's mom. Instead of paying attention to the other bad things, I have no words, I don't know, she said. But Salazar, that's what his mom continued to say. Instead of paying attention to the other bad things, I have no words, I don't know. But Salazar has claimed her aunt has been the problem, and ironically had threatened to shoot her own mother last week. I forgot about that detail. Allegedly, according to this cousin. She, Reyes, has been the problem. This is ridiculous how everyone believes the filth that comes from her mouth, she said. She was a shitty mother and shitty daughter, and all over just a shitty person. She hasn't been at her mother's bedside the entire time as she has been quoted. She had been by the hospital for short stays and then left. She claims Reyes has now been banned from seeing her mother at the hospital. So I want to correct myself. Perhaps the hospital didn't ban her, but it was maybe the family that told her not to come. And if you think about it, I'm just trying to think out loud. Like, this woman has had problems with her own mom. They seem to have a really chaotic relationship. If the mom was just about to kick this gunman's mom out for doing drugs and stuff, but now's the time to put your differences aside and go spend time with your mom. Like, she could have died, and I'm not trying to make excuses here, but sometimes in especially Mexican families, really old school traditional families, sometimes parents can have really strong personalities, and they've been through a lot of hardships and trauma themselves that has been overlooked, because that stuff just goes overlooked in Mexico, especially if you're poor, but even if you're rich, it's just kind of that old traditional mindset and culture of Mexico, and can be kind of pushed down into future generations. So, who's to say if she went with a good attitude to the hospital to go see her mom, and maybe the mom, kind of started blaming her and started pointing things out, which at the same time, it's understandable. Like, if there were warning signs about this kid and the mom was more enthralled with her boyfriend and her drugs, like, this is the type of shit that happens. And it's so unfortunate, because although it's not the mom's fault, those parents, were following her because they're looking for some type of solace. And at the same time, it must be hard for the gunman's mom too, to know that her son did this, that her life has brought her to this point. And anyway, I just thought I would show you guys these articles. Here's another article as well. This is how I found out about the confrontation that happened between the family and her. So, what do you guys think? Do you guys think that her responses have been understandable? Do you think she's in denial? Do you think that she should be more sympathetic and just not even ask the parents, not to judge her son, not even to forgive her son, but just to be apologetic and sincere about? I think that she is sorry. Obviously, you could just really tell that it's messing with her mind and her head as well, because at the end of the day, bad mom or not, it's like I said, her life has come to this point where she's going to be questioning herself and really reflecting on how it got to this point and the responsibility that her responsibility in all of this. Hopefully, it makes people more aware of their own kids and to just be a little bit more proactive in your kid's life. There's a lot of people that, unfortunately, it's like with addiction, if parents are addicts and their kids are exposed to it, unfortunately, the kid might end up being that way, or they may grow up to totally hate drugs because they've seen what their parents have turned out to be, and by a miracle, they're the total opposite. But a lot of the time, it's generational trauma that is passed on, and it goes uncured, and a lot of the responsibility really does fall on the government, in my opinion, and yes, the police in this case. But I feel like the government should be more willing to give us free services to help people with addiction issues, with trauma, with mental and physical health issues as well, poverty, and being able to really give us the resources that can make our lives, improve the quality of our lives. There's a lot of people that, yes, they are so sick that they may not accept the help. A lot of the cases, it seems to be like these shooters, like, that are really sick, like the Colorado Aurora shooter, what's his name, James Holmes. Like, he was in therapy, and a lot of people were trying to get him into treatment, but they could tell that he was reluctant, and because of his because he was so reluctant, that's a sign that it was quite serious, and that really scared his psychologist, because he just didn't share a lot of details, and he just refused treatment. So I understand that there's a handful of people that aren't going to want to accept treatment, but there's also a lot of people that do want help and will take that help and could use that help. And a lot of the time, we're trying to come up with policies and restrictions and solutions so that stuff like this doesn't happen. But at the big, huge chunk of what is missing that I think people also need to talk about is being able to have these resources for people, and to avoid situations like this. A lot of people say it's not mental illness, it's them wanting to have infamy and be for infamy and known for being this badass school shooter or mass shooter. And yes, that may be the case. You see it with the Stoneman Douglas shooting as well. I'm watching the trial, and that is the case, that these douchebags do want infamy. But at the same time, like I said, there's warning signs, and there has to be like active resources available for parents to use as well, and so that this stuff doesn't continue to be passed on to their kids and to future generations. I think we've become really desensitized to the fact that a lot of the average hardworking citizen or resident in America, whatever political sphere you stand on, we're giving them so much of our money, and where exactly is it going? Why is our quality of life the way that it is, where it's hard for people to get therapy, to get get help for problems that have been going on in their family for so long? And the whole gun issue, while people are fighting over that, it's just like not the more important, but just as important issues are not being talked about, and the government's not being held accountable for that kind of stuff. So I don't know, guys. Just thought this was interesting, and I would like to elaborate a little bit more on this kind of stuff, like warning signs in all of these gunmen. How a lot of it's very prominent today. How they're all quite young. Also would like to talk about, is it harmful, beneficial, or a little bit of both to see footage or evidence? And does it manifest certain things? Like, will it inspire other people to do the same thing? Or sharing survival tips, will it warn killers about what to look out for, such as just to quickly get into it, like playing dead? That's like a survival tip. Some people feel like we shouldn't be talking about that stuff so publicly because it could warn the killers. And again, if showing evidence to the public, does it inspire other mass shooters? I'm kind of not in agreement with that. I think that it's good for us to see the evidence, and whether it's not going to inspire someone, and if that person already has something going on with them, if they're going to be willing to do that kind of stuff. And I would also like to talk about school safety. What are better ways and better effective strategies? I'm sorry guys, I'm gonna just cut this off now. It's 30 minutes, so anyways. Alright, hope you guys found this somewhat interesting. Bye.